Hi, what's going on everyone, and welcome to a brand new video. And in this one we're going to be taking a look at how to code a website. Okay, and I know that there are some other ways to actually build a website, something like if you want to use something like a CMS, that means you don't want to write any line of code. You can use something like WordPress, Squarespace, Simple Site, or any other one that you basically want to use. Okay, but what I want us to do in this one is to just take a look at how we can code a website, and with that it means that we're going to actually take a different route. That means that we're going to be writing the lines of code that is actually going to be able to make our website functional. Okay, so coding a website actually involves several key steps. Okay, you have to start from something like planning and designing to coding, and then from coding you go into something like deployment of the application or the website so that other people can actually see it on their devices, okay, if they ever search for it. And that is just that. So for us to start right now, I want us to take this one after the other. So we're going to take a look at designing and planning, okay, or planning and designing of a website. So first of all, so the first thing you need to do is to determine the goal of the website. What kind of a website are you building? What's the goal behind the website you want to build? Is it going to be a personal blog? Is it going to be an e-commerce website? Or is it just going to be something like a portfolio? So once you decide this, first of all, you decide that and then write it down before you actually move to the next step. Okay, this is basically the first thing you need to do. You need to capture it down. What exactly do you want to build with this particular website you want to code right now? If it is a portfolio, if it is a personal blog, if it is an e-commerce website, you need to have that image at the back of your mind before you actually begin. Now that you've actually determined the goal of the website you want to build, maybe let's say for instance it's going to be something like a personal blog. What do you want to do? The next thing you need to do is to sketch out the layout. Okay, it could be with using something like pencil and pen and the paper rather, to be able to sketch out how you want the website to look. Okay, don't you ever go into trying to create or code a website without even having the image of how you want it to actually look first of all. Okay, so because it's actually going to end up making you like moving around, trying different styles or different layout, and then at the end of the day it's going to take much of your time. So what I always advise people starting out is first of all sketch how you want the website to be. Okay, you can use something like pencil and paper to sketch the layout, or you use pen and paper, or you can even go to other existing websites and then maybe you can screenshot how their website actually looks like, and after that you can modify, you can put some certain things to make sure that your own looks unique. Okay, so that's just the second thing that you need to do under planning and designing of your website. Now that you've actually sketched out the layout of your website, you already know how your website is actually going to look like. So the next thing, you are going to actually implement that particular structure that you have actually marked out, okay, or some markup of the application. The next thing you need to do is for you to actually decide the technologies that you want to use in building that particular website. And most people actually use something like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and that's actually the barebone, okay, of any website. That's just the primary technologies that are actually required to be able to build a website if you are going by coding. Okay, so you need to go through that route: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And these three things that I just mentioned are just for UI. You understand? That's the user interface of the application. So you have to use these. And I know there are some libraries or some frameworks that you can actually use to build this, okay? But we're going to just stick to the basics, okay? So I know we have some other libraries or something like frameworks that you can use when you are building the UI, okay? But just decide that the elements or the technologies that you are basically going to use is actually going to be the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which we're actually going to experiment with that as we move along with this video. And then if the website actually has something like a backend functionality, you want it to be dynamic or something of that nature, you can hook up with a backend programming language. It could be Python, it could be something like PHP, it could be Node.js, or right about any other server-side programming language that you would want to use. So that is just it about planning and designing of your website. The next thing we want to move into right now is for you to set up your development environment. All right, so in setting up your development environment, what this simply means is that you are going to have to install your editor. It could be something like Sublime Text, it could be something like Visual Studio Code, Atom, or just right about any other editor that you want to basically use, okay, for your code development. Okay, that you would also like to set up in your development environment is the browser that you want to use. Okay, so I recommend using something like Google Chrome, but if you have any other browser, that is already installed in your device, you should feel free to use that. Okay, so it could be something like that of the Firefox or even Explorer. Okay, so just write about any browser that you currently have on your system. You can go ahead and then make use of that. So this is just basically how you can set up your development environment. So the next one is to set up your basic website structure. Okay, to set up your basic website structure, that means that you are now ready to start creating the lines of code that your website is actually going to make use of to be able to function just the way you want it to actually function. And to do that, what I want us to do right now is to just get into my system, and we can actually experiment with that practically so that you guys can also understand that, because if I'm just explaining that on the camera this way, you may not grasp all of the things that I'm actually going to be talking about. Okay, so I want us to get into my system, and then we'll experiment with that of the basic website structure. Okay, so you are going to see how we'll be able to create a folder for the website and then create some files that you are going to basically need. This is just the basic layout, okay, that we're going to actually create right now within that of my system, so that you can actually see how that is actually done. Okay, we're not going to create a full-fledged website just yet, but just to get you started in coding a website from scratch. So for the layout structure, you can create a folder maybe on your desktop, depending on the environment where, the server-side language that you're actually using. Okay, but since we're not using something like PHP, we can just create a folder within the desktop right here. Okay, so let's say that this is your portfolio. If you are building a portfolio, you can create a folder right here, and then you want to open that up with your editor. So I want to open this up right now with my Visual Studio Code, because I have that in this system. Okay, so this is it. Okay, it's open right here, but there is nothing, no files and folders inside of it. But for instance, let's say we want to create an index inside of it. So this is going to be index.html, and I want to open that up. So within here, you can put your HTML file. In fact, I'm going to put an example right here. So let me just copy and paste. And if we scroll up a little bit, we're going to see that we do have some elements on this particular page right now. Okay, so it started with here HTML, and this is the language declaration, and this is the head region of the website where we have the title of the website right here. And then down here within the body, we have all of the things that we have in here right now. Okay, like the H1 right here, and we have our menu bars within this particular place. So you can actually pause the video to type them out if you want to, and if you don't want to type them, that's just completely fine. So we have right here a script that is just meant for that of the JavaScript. In case we're going to ever have any type of a JavaScript inside, we're going to have to put that into a different file called script.js, and that's just how to link to your JavaScript in your HTML. Okay, so I linked that within the footer, and that is just before the closing body. Another linking that we did here is right here, where we linked our CSS, and that has to do with the style of the website. Okay, so let's save the changes. And for instance, if we want to see this right now, if we go to the desktop, open this up, you see that that particular index kind of comes in, and if you open that up, it should open with your browser, guys. So this is it, within our browser right here. Okay, so this is how it will look by default, because we don't have any CSS attached to it. But let's say, for instance, we want to include just a tiny bit of CSS. We can do that right now. So we do have a tiny bit of a CSS right now. However, what we want to do right now is I want to create a file, this particular file right here called styles.css. I want to create it within this website set folder. So if I hit in here, and I want to do styles.css, and then open that up, and I want to go ahead and paste that right here, and then we can save the changes. Let's save the changes. So we basically start the body right here, where we have the font family right here, and then we'll have margins and padding set to 0, and then we'll have line height set to 1.6 right there. So this is the style for the head region of the web application, and down here we are just basically styling the navigation menu, and after that we start the main. And down here, this is the body of the application. So if we save the changes right here, because in our HTML we do have the connection right here, I'm going to see that the style is actually going to come in. So if we go to the file in here and then refresh the web page, you see that the style kind of came in, right? So you see that your website is beginning to come together. This is the footer, this is the head region of the application, these are the menus that we just talked about. Okay, so that's just that. So for instance, if you have something like JavaScript that you also want to add, remember that within the HTML right here, we've also linked to the JavaScript right here on this particular place. So if you want to add the JavaScript, you can create this particular file. All right, so I'm going to just copy this and then create the file within this particular place, and let's paste that. So open that up, you see that we have JavaScript file right now. So let's put some dummy code right there. All right, so I do have some tiny bit of a JavaScript that I will just basically want to paste in here, and then I want to change this log right here. I just want it to alert. If I refresh that web page, I want it to just alert that document is actually ready. Okay, document is ready. I want just that to alert that on the web page so that you can see what I mean by that. So if we go to our browser and then we refresh, you see where it says a document is ready, and if you click on it, it goes away. Okay, so that's just what that JavaScript is actually going to do. So we are basically not trying to create a full-fledged website, but this is just how you can start coding your website if you want to. At least if you can actually come up with such an idea, implementing that shouldn't be an issue. Okay, you can host this the way that it is right now if it is okay by you, and if it is not okay, you can keep on styling the web page, add images, videos, whatever you want to add to the website, and then after that you can host it, and that is just that, guys. So if you have this particular section accomplished, the next thing you want to do is to go ahead and begin to, so you can go ahead and then begin to test your website, test the compatibility of the website. For instance, if I hit on you can use this resize right here to see how responsive the website is. Okay, so if you take a look in here, see that this one is responsive to a certain level. At least the content did not actually go out of view. So if you open this up with a phone, you should be able to see all of the content. Okay, however, there are still some other ways, like for instance, if you hit something like just want to check if F12 can actually work on this. And if you open this up right here, if you go to elements, not really element, but this icon right here. Okay, so this is, you see the icon that I just clicked on right here. This is actually going to help you be able to test for different screen sizes on your web page. Okay, so this one right here is dimension responsive. You can change the sizes of the website right here. Okay, let's say that you want to use something like Samsung Galaxy S8. If you hit on that, you see that the website, the app, kind of resized to what it would possibly look like if you were using Samsung Galaxy S8 to view the application. If you want to change the device, maybe let's change this to iPad right here. You see that it keeps on resizing. Okay, so this is also a tool that you can actually use to check how responsive your website is. So that's just another added feature that you can actually use to do the testing. You can experiment with these things that are actually here to be able to see how your website is actually going to look like. Even you can also change your orientation on this particular thing right here. All right, so another thing I also want to show you is if I hit in here and then open that up, you can also use a tool that is actually called a W3 validator to actually validate your code. Okay, so if I go to their website right now and then open that up, you're going to see that you will be required to like enter the URL of your website right here, and then when you hit on check, it's actually going to check your code for you if the code that you wrote are actually correct or not. Okay, this actually doesn't actually, I don't think it works offline, so you can only, if you have the website, maybe you have it hosted online, that's the only way you can actually use this particular tool to test it. But it's a very handy tool that you can actually use to validate your code, if your code are actually working just fine or not. All right, so remember the URL. It's actually validator.w3.org. That's just the website you can actually use to test. You can actually test how good your code is on this particular website. And then finally, the next thing or the last thing that you need to do is going to be just maintenance of the application. Okay, from time to time, you may have to change this up. If there is anything that isn't actually working just the way you want it to be, you just validate, try to edit that. Okay, so you can't actually build everything to your test at one sitting. Okay, so you have to just keep on revisiting the website and then try to make changes to the website. Okay, so that is just basically how this is actually done, guys. That's how to code a website. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to share this video and give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to follow or subscribe to us, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.